Time now to take another look at the morning papers. Here with me reviewing them this morning are the former editor of the Daily Star, Dawn Leeson, and the broadcaster and journalist, Afia Hagan. So welcome back to both of you. Afia, we're starting with you, and we've dealt with a lot of the front pages in previous hours, haven't we? But inside The Guardian, there's a story you wanted to talk about two Met Police officers being sacked over WhatsApp messages.
Yes, so these two Metropolitan Police officers were in a WhatsApp group with 6 former colleagues, and in this group, they shared racist, homophobic, misogynistic messages, and some of them were concerning Katie Price's son Harvey, who has autism and another rare disability as well. And basically the messages that they were sharing were mocking him, mocking his size, and they also had other elements of racism, homophobia, sexism, misogyny, everything in these groups. So initially the officers were granted anonymity, but they were named yesterday, and Katie Price said that she was glad that they were named, that they should be named and shamed. But deep in this story, I mean, the things that were said about Katie Price's son were absolutely disgusting, should never have been said. The most senior officer in the group was also the most prolific. He shared the most WhatsApp messages, and he also said that his name should be Auschwitz, Adolf, Fred, or Ian, after my 2 favorite child sex killers. And that, to me, amongst everything else, is just absolutely, it's horrendous that you have a serving police officer, a senior serving police officer in the Metropolitan Police, who's talking about his favourite child sex killers, as well as everything else that went on in this group. Now, Katie Price feels like she's lost trust in the Metropolitan Police, and I'm sure there's thousands of people across London who feel the same. Yes, we know that it's not every single Metropolitan Police officer, but it does feel like with every week that passes, we're finding out more and more about serving Metropolitan Police officers who, frankly, should not be serving, who should not be in the police at all, who seem to be getting away with things that if you were in any other job, you would be sacked for. But if you're in the Metropolitan Police, you seem to get away with it. Perhaps now we're hearing about it more because there is a crackdown, because Sadiq Khan has said, there's no place for these types of people in the police force. And that's maybe why we're hearing about it more, because they are being rooted out. But I agree with Katie Price here, that I too have absolutely lost confidence in the Metropolitan Police.
Okay, yes, and it will be interesting to see what public opinion is broadly on this subject. Certainly some pretty shocking stories have been coming out, haven't they? Dawn, let's take a look at an article you've picked out in The Guardian. This is about charities. The headline is, "Charities mustn't get political like Lineker."
I've picked it out because I couldn't agree more with this story. It's basically the toxic rhetoric now around fundraising and charities is becoming very, very divisive, and it's putting people off giving money. This is actually an interview with Orlando Fraser, is the head of the Charity Commission. It's the first ever interview he's given. Incredibly, Brits raised £400 million for the Emergency Disasters Fund around the Ukraine war. So he's gone out to the front line, he's talking to the volunteers and talking to people. But he's given this interview, Anna, and he's saying some of the rhetoric used now by the charities themselves is getting increasingly political. He goes, they need to stop getting political like Gary Lineker. He mentions the name Gary Lineker. And, because they have, having got politicians like Suella Braverman and saying, she's scaremongering, she's vindictive, he goes, that puts people off donating. And he goes, but on the other side, we also have politicians accusing charities of being too woke, that word again. And both of these sides need to just dial down the rhetoric, because it is putting people off donating. And the bottom line with this story is that he's out there, people are, the amount of money Brits have raised, doing incredibly good things, helping Ukrainian refugees who are all in the border in Romania and can't wait to get back to their own country. So he's just saying, just tone it down a bit, stop being political, and encourage people to do the right thing.
That's very interesting. Yeah, okay. I feel you're going to take us to the Mirror next, and they reflect on a very poignant moment during President Biden's, visit to Ireland yesterday.
Absolutely, lots being covered about Joe Biden's visit to Ireland, but a really poignant moment, like you said, when Joe Biden wept when he met a priest who gave his son his last rites. His son, Beau Biden, was 46 when he died from a brain tumour in 2015, and he learned that the priest who gave him his last rites was at the Knox Shrine in County Mayo, where he was visiting, and he had a chance to talk with that priest And he broke down when he talked to him. And understandably, you know, Joe Biden was absolutely heartbroken when his son Beau died in 2015. And of course, it was an unexpected moment. He didn't expect that priest should be there. And it seems that this whole trip, you know, Joe Biden has really enjoyed himself. He looked rejuvenated, and definitely this was an emotional part of it, and probably he was caught off guard as well, caught by surprise. But what a beautiful thing for him to be able to talk with that priest, to be able to have that moment with him and talk about how, you know, what it was like to give his last rites to his son Beau. You know, it's such a poignant thing, such a sad thing, and you know, lovely to see that story.
Yeah, a very human, very sad moment. But Afia and Dawn, we are out of time. But I know it went so quickly. Lovely to see you both.
Again.